If you're a student, early career professional, or someone feeling stuck in your career path, this conversation is for you.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion, my words got power, my thoughts have action, motivation, stay gracious, that's greatness, be audacious, motivation, be audacious, innovation, be audacious, inspiration, be bold, motivation, be audacious.
In my mind, it's a lot of times you get to 25, 30, 35, 40 years old and you're like, oh man, I wish I knew that earlier.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, we don't have to continue that trend, right? We can take our collective knowledge and we can pass it down to the next generation. So not everybody has to struggle. How do you safeguard your success? Well, for me, I talk about starting things early, letting compounding work for you as opposed to against you. So Albert Einstein has a great quote, and he said, he says compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. I think for me, I kind of almost feel like a museum curator, where I'm looking around and trying to figure out what's the best advice and make sure that we need to amplify this. People need to hear this. Yeah. So that's the role I kind of think of myself.
Have you ever believed that working harder automatically leads to career success? When in reality, it might be working smarter and more intentionally that changes everything. On the Audacious Living Podcast, we help you live your best audacious life by making bold, intentional choices that move you forward, not just keep you busy. Today's guest is Alex Dripchak. He's on a mission to future-proof careers by teaching the real-world power skills most people never learn in school. Things like networking, financial well-being, to productivity and career pivots. He's got them all. And so in this conversation, Alex shares practical strategies to safeguard your success, use time intentionally, and build relationships that actually open doors. So now that we got you all set, let's jump into this conversation with Alex Dripchak. Hey, Alex, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. My friend, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today, Audley. Appreciate you.
Not a problem. It's great to connect this way. I know we've been trying for a little bit, and we're glad that we're here making it happen. You lost your voice, right? So I'm glad you got it back, man.
I feel like a lot of people have this nasty cold. It's like you come back negative with the COVID test and you're kind of like, really? It's like, it's been like a month that I've been sick, and so I appreciate your patience, and I hope everybody, you and your listeners, are all staying healthy this season.
That's the goal, man. Definitely stay healthy. You're right. And glad that you're here. And look, for me, these are, like I said, the conversation more than anything else. And I think it's really cool of the opportunity to engage in dialogue that potentially can help people get to a better place, which is such a surreal sort of experience when you think about it. We're going to have a conversation here. We're going to dialogue. People are going to eavesdrop and hear what we're saying and jump in and go, oh my gosh, and use this and go and do great things. And we may or may never know, but like it doesn't matter what we know what to happen to them. The fact they use it, that's really the goal of this. And so thanks for helping kind of further my mission, if you will.
Love it. Let's dive right in then.
Well, so you spend much of your work sort of helping people, and I love the sort of the phraseology around sort of future-proofing their careers, and you've got a background in the tech space. That totally makes sense when you think about future and forward thinking, because that's in line with your work. But maybe and kind of the relevancy of this podcast very much is about, so for example, we talk often about life being kind of a journey, and we use the analogy of a pathway. So we're all on our pathway, and as you're moving forward, there's going to be perhaps obstacles or things you need to be mindful of coming down the road, and it's really about preparing yourself and being ready to take them head on, because you can't avoid them. You got to go through them or overcome them in some capacity. And so the idea of fear, being forward thinking, I think it's perfect, really. And so maybe as a starting point, Alex, I can get you to introduce yourself to our audience, talk about the work that you do, and what's got you to the point that you're at now.
Yeah, great question. So I'll try to be as consolidated as possible in my answer. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, but yeah. So I appreciate you. Future-proofing the workforce is kind of our mission here at the Commence Foundation. So I'll start with that. So that is a foundation that I've been running. Started off as a business and now switched over to a 501c3 charity, where it's really aimed at teaching students the essential life skills, power skills, whatever you want to call them, so, formerly known as soft skills, that are going to enhance their life, that are going to really change their life. So in my mind, it's a lot of times you get to 25, 30, 35, 40 years old and you're like, oh man, I wish I knew that earlier. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, we don't have to continue that trend, right? We can take our collective knowledge and we can pass it down to the next generation. So not everybody has to struggle. So that goal of trying to make struggle optional is the phraseology, the most we can with the knowledge that we have. So things like financial well-being, networking, interview skills, all these things that aren't traditionally taught in education, that's what we're teaching and aiming to fix that gap. So that's the foundation. The book, so my second book here is called Maximize. That's coming out in the next few weeks here. And that's all around productivity, performance, purpose. It's a playbook style countdown of the top 100 productivity practices. So kind of this book meets blog, meets list format that I'm excited to get into with you today. And then just, yeah, a little bit of my background. You mentioned tech. So started at Oracle, worked at Mercer, big consulting firm. Just saw some of what excellence looks like, as
Mhm.
well as how to identify it. So I've always been adjacent to HR and talent management my whole career. So just looked at a lot of those practices, curated, collated, consolidated a lot of the best thinking across the industry and across books. So bringing that insight into the books that I write, into the foundation, into my coaching, advising, etc.
And you really focus on that's like students as your young people, and that's the focus.
Yeah.
How did you sort of identify that that's where you wanted to spend your time?
Yeah,
Was
it's a
it
great
sort of out
question.
of your experience where I wish I had it when I was younger, or was there another story behind that?
So it was a few different factors. So again, I'll try to make it consolidated, but the number one factor was when I was 15, I got a job at a golf course, my first part-time job. And the first thing that my dad said to me, my dad was in finance, he said, "You need to open a Roth IRA." And I said, "Come again? What was that?" Like what the heck is a Roth IRA? What is this guy talking about? So for those
What is
listeners,
that?
it's
I'd have
a
been like,
type
what
of
is
individual
that?
retirement account. What's
Yeah.
that?
I'd have been like, what is that? Never
Yeah,
mind.
exactly, right? We're 15 years old. That's not what I'm focused on.
No.
So, but I took his advice, right? And the few dollars I had left over from the course, I put into this IRA, and watching that grow over 20 years has been just one of those things where it's like, oh my God, this is such a safeguard, such a life hack to success that just wanted to scale it out. So that was kind of my side, is like everybody should know this and everybody should have this opportunity. Shouldn't be a lack of knowledge, but a lack of action that determines success. So that was the big reason, but also just seeing a lot of my friends, including my wife, came from underprivileged background. And then she went to Penn State, went to Columbia, get our master's there, and these things were still never taught. So it's kind of like, all right, well, you take out all this money, you take out all this potential debt, and you're
Mhm.
not even baseline, you're not even aware of what the loan is that you're taking out and the implications of
Right.
that loan when you're 18 years old or
Right.
young. And then secondarily, you don't even know how to pay it back as far as with your investments. So I was like, okay, we need to fix this gap. So financial well-being is a big part of our course, which I'm actually happy to cover with my dad. So it's a little father-son duo on the financial well-being course.
Nice. No,
Yeah.
no, and it's well. First of all, congratulations on that, to have that
Thank
kind
you.
of connection that with your father, you can work and do something special like that.
Yeah.
But even the idea of recognizing that maybe what was common to you, because you had the influence of your father, isn't the same for everyone, and so it's like, okay,
Right.
so what can I do to offer? What can I present forward to help shorten the learning curve for other people? Is kind of how I can think about that. And I think I love the
Yeah.
fact that you're doing that.
Thank
I
you.
actually want to go back because, I'm a guy that still calls them soft skills, by the way. I know people,
Okay.
I'm an old school guy. They call them power
Okay.
skills and a few other terms that they're core,
Yeah.
I think core skills, human skills.
Yep.
I still call them soft
Essential
skills. But
skills. Yeah. What else? I think we covered most of them. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I don't even know when this transition was made. Maybe I took a nap and missed it, but I still, I don't think they're soft. I think soft skills are extremely important. But I get the maybe the phraseology switch.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So on the soft slash power skills,
Sure.
is that something? that you think when you look when you think of young people today, are they in a better place today than we were with respect to understanding the importance of these particular skills?
I think there's definitely more folks like me, right, on social media that are sharing it. It's just a matter of if you're following the information. So I think if the information's out there to digest, it's just hard to get up on your feed. And the algorithm is not necessarily going to support
Right.
advice. They're supporting more whatever TikTok dances and, big,
Yeah, the
big
trends.
super
Remember, the
influencers.
trends take precedent, right? Come on,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, of course. It's unfortunately, but so yeah, so that's one of the things. It's out there. I think that actually young people are more how do I put it, at a disadvantage
okay.
today than we were in the past, just because of this little world that you can enter in, right? This is
Yeah,
a whole separate world and it can envelop you, wrap you into it, and it's hard to get out, right? I mean, you see people just constantly on their phone
right.
in the elevator, on the subway, you just take a look around and you're like,
Yeah,
wow, we're like
yeah,
95% of people just diving into that phone.
yeah.
So, I mean, you can make the phone a good force for you depending on the apps, depending on the content you're consuming, but most often it's a distraction. It's an entertainment zone. It's a vortex. So that's I talk a lot about that. So I think that they have to battle that. I mean, they're on their phone two, three times as much as other generations, depending on the studies you look at. So I think that has made networking, communication skills
Hmm.
much more challenging.
My youngest son, he's 19 years old, and um, from the time that he was born, I could literally talk to people, learn how to talk to people, learn how to look people in the eye,
Yeah,
look how like that was just something. Maybe maybe in the same manner that your father ingrained financial
right.
knowledge. That was my thing. Like I was like this is really important to you, and it's funny now. He's still a young man, but it's funny now when I look at him, he's actually a really pretty good communicator. Like he really
Yeah,
is. And
good.
to me, I would talk. I used to talk to him about how that is going to be the single most defining element that you will stand out more than you ever realized, and just continue to practice and do the reps. And so yeah, when you talk about where they're disadvantaged, I can see that because I can see a difference between
Yep.
himself and even his
Cheers.
friend, his peer group, right? You can just you totally
Yeah.
see a difference. And so yeah, I want to kind of go back to your sort of your professional journey because
Sure.
you've got you've got a few things. You're wearing a few hats, right? There's no question about
Yeah.
that. Like and so I'm wondering. It's a little about how you juggle all for one, but how do they
Yeah.
all connect to one another, and how do they fit into the grand overall direction of where you're going?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for me, the basis at Oracle was obviously a great foundation of sales skills. So I got to see that amazing program. Really, really appreciated my time there. Grew pretty quickly through a number of different roles. Got to manage a team at 24 years old, 25 years old. Was out in the field, which is really where a lot of people would spend a lot of their career. So I got to see almost all sides of selling when it came to my time at Oracle. Got to see talent development, got to see our new grads. So one of the teams I was managing was out of college. So, and then we were selling HR technology solutions. So really seeing the behind the scenes of how people scan or kind of seek out as well as screen out. So a lot of s sounds. So I say that five times fast, right? Screen and scan.
Just
So,
okay.
but yeah, so I got to see how an applicant tracking system works. And then from there went to Mercer, so top talent management consulting firm for folks that aren't aware, HR, benefits, talent, and got to see all lines of business that Mercer covered in a very cool role there. So that got me more exposed to how to
Hmm.
develop talent, identify talent, etc. So I took both of those roles, and I actually was also in another role where it was talent acquisition. So a lot of what the top tech companies
Okay.
wanted for their talent, and I got to interview all the top talent leaders, Google, Box, all the different big
Yep.
companies that people want to know about. So that was cool, and run an award for that. So then I got to see firsthand what people are doing for recruiting. So I just kind of saw all of these different things, and I'm like, well, I've kind of got an interesting little adjacency here, seeing how talent is from all different sides,
Mhm.
from all the different experts. So it just really piqued my interest, and I thought made me, credible enough to run this foundation. And obviously, we have a whole team of mentors and advisors, which is awesome. But that was kind of the genesis. And I still spend my time when you talk about juggling a day job. So very happy to be with Bright Horizons. So that's a great company in the education and caregiving space.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so definitely it's a balancing act for sure. We talk a lot about that in the book of how to juggle it. But yeah, that's that. To answer your question in brief, I guess those are kind of how the four roles have all developed. They all coalesce about education, about supporting, about talent identification, and all coalesce to form what I'm doing here in the Commence Foundation.
I say very much that, life kind of is like a series of choices that we make, right? But when you look, so when you're going forward, it's kind of like an art form where you're going, this
Yeah.
feels good, but when you stop and look back, it's a science because you see, like, I went here to go here to go here to go here, and so that's kind of very much what I was curious about, sort of the experience and how they all related. And I'm hearing that loud and clear, then toward the direction that they ultimately are pushing us towards. So sort of bearing sort of that in mind, a little bit about your journey. I'm curious, this is the Audacious Living Podcast. What's kind of the most audacious decision that you had to make with respects to the decisions that sort of shape your career journey, or your
Yeah,
pathway?
that's a good question. I guess so. Writing a book is always kind of an audacious thing. You're not really sure how you're going to be received, especially if you're not a big famous person. So I think that's one of those challenges. And so I was just actually at a conference and Stephen Pressfield was there. So anybody familiar with Stephen's work, War of Art being one of his big works, Resistance with a capital R. So and he was just talking a lot about there's going to be that noise coming back of imposter syndrome, right? I'm not worthy
Yep.
of this. I can't do this. A lot of other people are much more qualified than I to do this. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to try to keep you down from working. And I feel that's pretty strong, both with trying to run the foundation and with the writing a book. I feel like writing in today's day and age is not necessarily so much about the ideas you have to share or about how good of a writer you are. It's more about if you're a famous person and you're sharing your tips or you're sharing your life story. So trying to be more towards the let's share out tips that we've coalesced from all these different books and curated from all these books, as well as just getting back to writing. Seems a little bit on like turning things on its head. So I'm battling that a little bit, and I
Okay.
think that to answer your question, I think it would have to be the book process, especially the second book process, would be the most audacious, but closely followed behind switching over my business to a charity. And
Mhm.
anybody who switched over to a charity before knows it's a pretty intricate process.
Yeah.
And you've got to kind of rely on donations and grants to even just get back to level, not even above water. Yeah.
It's like, that feeling you get when you're about to make a big jump or a big plunge. You kind of hold your breath, you go and you jump, right? It's kind of that
Yeah.
sort of the feeling I get as you describe that.
Yeah, no, it's a good way to put it. And for me, it's just always been focusing on centering myself for doing the most good for the most number of people, right? So it's
Love
not
it.
necessarily about what I want, but it's about how is this going to be maximally effective. So no pun intended, since my book is called Maximize. But yeah, so how is this going to be most effective? How can we scale this to reach the most number of people? And that's
Okay.
why I ultimately switched to a foundation.
Love it. So it's something I've heard you reference as safeguarding your success, and I kind of
Yeah.
maybe I'd love to understand what that means, particularly in sort of today's landscape of fast moving changes all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. How do you safeguard your success? Well, for me, I talk about starting things early, the letting compounding work for you as opposed to against you. So Albert Einstein has a great quote, and he said, "He says compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." So you think about compounding working against you. You think about high APRs on your credit cards. You think about big loans that people don't understand. That can keep you down for a lot of your life, and you don't even
Yes.
realize it. So
Hmm.
this force of compounding is either working against you with loans and interest and student loans, car loans, whatever it is, credit card debt, God forbid, and then it's working for you when you start investing, right? So outpacing inflation is essential. So that's just one of those forces that is subtly or not so subtly, depending on how you look at it, shaping your life. So that to me, if you can understand compounding at an early age, that's going to be one of those success safeguards. I think, as you said, with your son, really kind of encouraging him to be out front, shaking hands, making eye contact. Those little things, as the prior
Right.
generations might have thought, have now become paramount and really a competitive differentiator if you're able to do those
Mm.
things well. So I think that's step two. It might sound like a basic, but that's step two. So compounding, those communication skills, And then from there, I found there are considerable interview hacks. So for me, I talk a lot about one of the success safeguards is where to under and over index your time.
Okay.
So not all hours are created equal. An hour spent doing
That's
your
right.
homework is the example I give in college. That's 1/2000th of your GPA. No, and GPA ranked 12th out of 18 factors for what was most important for employers for getting a good job.
Hmm.
So it is minuscule, the impact that that time is going to have on your homework for that one course out of 40 courses, small percentage of your grade. Whereas 1 hour that you could have gone to that networking event and you spent more time there, that can fundamentally change your life, whether it's
Gotcha.
fulfillment or whether it's financial freedom or
Yep.
just whatever kind of well-being you want to talk about, that can fundamentally change your life. So I've had a number of students come to me and they say, hey, I can't go to that networking mixer with those employers because I have to do my homework. And so I try to put that over index, under index, that not
Yeah.
all hours are created equal,
Yeah.
cost analysis or whatever you want to say to them, and try to spell it out for them. So when you understand where to over index, like I have always over indexed on interviewing, and it's really
Yep.
paid off. And where to appropriately index and under index is a huge part of life.
Yes.
So that time allocation, I'll give those core three, right? So the compounding working for good and not working for
Yep.
bad, the communication skills that you've done so well teaching your son, and then, last but not least, knowing where to over-index and under-index your time.
Yeah, the indexing of time is that one really resonates with me because it's so true. You'll have a plate of things in front of you, and you go, okay, I gotta do, and they're all important, right? They all got there's varying degrees of importance, but there's a level of importance to each of them. And you're like, okay, so where do I go next? And so
Yeah,
the approach to be very cerebral about it, right, and kind of being okay, so where is this going to take me, or how, right? That kind of I'm going to say elimination process, for lack of a better term, that kind
right.
of process to figure out where you go next. To be conscious about that is what I really appreciate what you shared there. So thanks for that. I think it's
Yeah,
important.
of course. I mean, one of the things I come back to is a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to look up my interviewers and I'll look up a little bit about the company and I'll spend whatever an hour, hour and a half prepping because that's what everybody else does. And it's like, okay, but that's where you can stand out. This is a job that you might be at for, I mean, the average is whatever, 2 years, but 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it might be. This could be your life.
Right.
So why not spend more time, do the extra work, really impress people, and at least build a great connection, if not, decide on the job or get the job.
I think for me, my approach is I'm doing the research long before I even got the interview.
Yeah.
And I've done that many times where I've applied for a job and acted like, and all I've done is I've submitted my application, my resume, but I'm acting like I'm going to the interview. That's kind of my mindset approach, and it's just preparing for it, and maybe it's a psychological thing to help me stay in that like I'm ahead of a curve kind of attitude, if you
Yeah,
will. But yeah, it's however we can prepare and where we choose to invest our time is really what I'm hearing from you, which I love.
mm,
You also will work with people who are so we talked about maybe students going into roles, but you also talk to people who are in roles already, and maybe those roles are unfulfilling, and
yeah,
there's this feeling of stuckness because it's like, yeah, it's this isn't doing it for me. This isn't fulfilling for me in however way I need it to be. Just
yeah.
wondering, how can someone sort of recognize when it's time to make that bold, audacious leap and make the career pivot that's necessary?
Of course, yeah. So I was actually just, I love this question. And I swear, listeners, this was not scripted, catching me by surprise here, but I was actually just speaking about this a few months ago with Vanessa Van Edwards' People School group. And we were talking about, and it's a publicly available link that she was just sharing now
Hmm.
on Instagram and such. And I just talked about one of the clips was talking about, are you are you taking a career pivot or are you getting out of a career divot? And understanding the difference between the two. Is this a change or is this kind of, I really don't like this role and now I'm looking for something else? And where you operate,
Hmm.
it operates a little bit different if you're pivoting or getting out of a divot. But a number of tools, great resources out there. So I like the Hedgehog Concept by Jim Collins. There's the Values Factor by Dr. Demartini. There's Ikigai, which is this Japanese concept that I really love. So kind of passion, profession, vocation, mission, how they all coalesce or where those four concentric circles overlap.
That one's around like kind of your purpose, right? Like who you
Yes.
are, right? That's right.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Hmm.
So I love using that to kind of see if this is a good role for me. Does it hit all of the different boxes? So I think those are good places to start to see if there's a path for you. I think that in general, as to your other question of how do you know when to make that big audacious leap. So I know a lot of people that say, "Oh, I want to be a professional athlete," or "I want to do something that's really difficult." So I usually kind of come back and counter, are you in the top 0.1% or top 0.01% in certain situations? Because that's where, if you are, great, but most people are probably not. So then it's kind of like, can you be making a living at the 80th percentile, a good enough living for yourself and for your family, whoever relies upon you, if you are an 80th percentile performer?
Right.
So that's one of those things as to understanding the big, hairy, audacious goal, go
Yep.
for it, or, do you need to pivot? So I do have on my website. So my PR team just finished it, alexdripchak.com. There is a little "Do you love it?" What I call lovability questionnaire. So
Okay.
it operates similar to like a GPA. So definitely has geared towards my college students, but it's just 15 questions to really give you hypothetical situations and help you kind of weigh how much you like something. Is it like it, love it, or gotta have it? To use a Cold Stone Creamery ice cream analogy of all
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
But to try to give you an understanding as to, is this a job? Is this a career? Is this your only career, a long-term career, or is this really a calling? And there's different scoring mechanisms that'll
Yep.
automatically score for you. So it's a lovability index, do you love it questionnaire on my website that people can take for free.
It's funny. So my next line of question or thinking was around, this being strategic in our career directions or choices,
Yeah.
so I think this sort of fits in a little bit of what I was thinking, because there are times where, okay, so I'm trying to be here. I want to be in
Yeah.
this particular role, but this job gets me, it's not there, but it kind of gets me on that path, and
Yeah.
it gets me in the room, so to speak, to closer to where I want to be. So I wanted to sort of talk about the importance of sort of being really strategic and making choices where they may not fit exactly, but they
The
kind
end
of sort
goal.
of
Yeah.
in terms of where you want to go, the end goal.
Yeah, you got to look at the stepping stone. And I think anything you do, so there's a great term by Dr. Meg J. Hold on one second. I got to find her here on my back wall. It's a book called, oh, geez, where am I? The Defining Decade. And
Okay.
for some reason right now, it is escaping me, but I'm going to find it for folks.
Okay. Okay. It's going to appear as soon as we're done, guaranteed.
Yeah, it will. I'll find it in a minute. But anyhow, it's one of my favorite books, The
Okay.
Defining Decade, Dr. Meg J, and it talks about identity capital. So this is talking about anything you do should be building towards a purpose, right? So it might not be the exact path, but it's building a skill. It's that you find valuable to you, whatever you want to do. It's adjacent, or it is next to exactly your purpose, or it is a part of your purpose. So getting back to Ikigai, that passion, profession,
Yep.
vocation, mission, are you hitting different circles with this type of role? And then it's a matter of how you communicate it too. So when people say, "Oh, this looks random," you say, "No, it's not. This is where I learned X skill, or this is where I, built this community that helped me get into X." So everything should look like it's coming together. So it should be Ikigai. Look at Dr. Meg J's book that, I'm sorry, is escaping me right now, Defining Decade, identity capital, which is a really important phrase, especially for people in their 20s that are
Yeah.
trying to build different roles that might not necessarily be professional or might not necessarily be on their path, but they should be helping contribute towards that path.
Well, thanks for that. Something that I think really works hand in hand with audacity is a word that I think I like: curiosity. Love curiosity. Love talking about it. Love exploring it,
Yeah.
just because of all the of all potential what it can do in terms of opening up new pathways or
Yeah.
understandings or learnings. It just does so much. And so I'd love to kind of hear your take on how being curiosity, how important that is for career development and progression.
Yeah. So I think curiosity. I was saying this the other day, and I feel like I was rereading my books to Never Eat Alone. So reading my notes to Never Eat Alone, Keith Ferrazzi, and one of the parts that he was talking about is kind of curiosity, innovation, and in my perspective, that's really what's kept us as the top country in the world. The U.S. listeners, that's who I'm speaking to. And what the people look to for us is for our curiosity and innovation. We've been surpassed, right, in a lot of areas, science, technology, math, whatever it might be, when you look at some of the ratings. But I think that's the area where we really shine. So I think that speaks to its importance, right? A lot of people look to the U.S. for stock market or whatever situation it is as the top country or the defining force. And I think we have curiosity and innovation to thank for that. So I think that speaks to its importance. I think teaching curiosity is one of those things that we need to get better at.
Mhm.
So there's a book called Thinker Toys. This one
Okay.
stands out a little bit more, so I'm gonna be able to easily grab it.
There we
But
go.
it's a
Bam.
bigger book, so
Okay.
it's a really cool like curiosity, innovation, ideation.
Yeah.
It's a book, but it's also like a toolkit. So I really recommend having this and going through it of how to think differently, and how to reinvent things. Right, you might be looking at one thing one way, and there's seven different ways to look at it, or break it into separate pieces and recreate the wheel. So yeah, rethink the way you think is what they put for their colorful
Yeah.
little header section. So
Yeah. Yeah.
things like this need to get more ingrained in our culture because, like you
Yeah.
said, curiosity is so important.
Well, even from the standpoint of encouraging our young people to try,
Yeah.
just try. And I know for many it's what if I fail, or what if this doesn't go well, or what if, and there's 101 what ifs we can come up with.
Yeah.
And whereas I'd like to think, well, that's just, you try something, that's just an experiment, right? And no inventor, no scientist is expecting to go in and not have failures. In fact, they embrace the failures because that's where the learnings come from. And so
Yeah.
to really encourage the concept of, okay, it didn't work out, what did you take from it? Because I truly believe that you really truly haven't made a mistake until you walk away with the experience without the lesson, right?
Yes. That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's what Thomas Edison's famous for saying, I never failed. I learned 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb, right? Or something like
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
So there's a book I just picked up called The Right Kind of Wrong.
Okay.
So yeah, it's by Amy Edmondson. Admittedly, haven't started it yet. It's been a bit of a busy, crazy week, but that's one of the things I got to get on working on. I'm looking right at it. So I have my books I've read behind me and my books that I haven't read this way in case people see me looking off screen. Excuse me.
I love it.
Right on the top and tilted towards me is Right Kind of Wrong.
Right.
Because I'm very big about failing forward, I guess is the way you
Yeah.
could put it.
Yeah.
So making sure that you're using those lessons, right, to grow, to learn, and to pivot if needed.
So I'm curious, is reading kind of one of those ways that you sort of keep motivated and keep learning? I mean, you sort again, you think of, keep talking about this fast evolving world that we're in, and we even talk about AI and what it's done
Yeah.
to our world as well. But like, is reading big for you in that regard?
Yeah, I would say so. For me, I kind of took what was given to me when it came to learning management early on in my career, and then I said, "Hey, I mean, there's a lot of other people that are writing about this. Let me take a look at it," and that really piqued my interest. So both of my books, my first one on sales skills, excuse me, talk about my voice came back, and now it's trying to give me some difficulties. So it's called 100 Skills of the Successful Sales Professional, and that's kind of a curation of 30 different sales books. So that was big. I'm reading for
Mm,
me, and I just distilled things down and put them into skills as opposed to processes or methodologies. And
got you.
similar concept to my next book on productivity, purpose, and performance. So that is also a great deal of reading, right? There's over 110 different resources in there. So a lot of different ideas to share out. So I think for me, I kind of almost feel like a museum curator, where I'm looking around and trying to figure out what's the best advice and make sure that we need to amplify this. People need to hear this.
Yeah.
So that's the role I kind of think of myself. And I do, fuse my own experiences and my own thoughts and
Sure.
writings. But yeah, I kind of feel like myself as that vehicle to
Yep.
let people know where they should go.
I mean, the way I see it, Alex, we're a collection of experiences and insights, and yeah. So you absorb, you take in, you understanding, and you can develop your own. And so yeah, I think that's a wonderful way of learning, because it helps. It actually helps you process the information, right? Like if you take
Yeah.
something in, process that, and develop something out of that, I think you're absorbing it in the right way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to frame it.
You referenced your first book. One thing I want to ask you about was, it was action orientation was,
Yeah.
I guess, terminology I use, and that it's really sort of connected to, I guess, the significance of taking action.
Yes.
You want to sort of elaborate further? I'd love to kind of.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Yeah, so everything is architected for maximal action orientation. So what that means is I don't have a book where you have to read chapter by chapter, page by page, and kind of labor through it. So I would consider myself, I guess, a reader now, but I would have never really considered myself a reader for the first, whatever, 30 years of my life.
Okay.
So this is geared towards actually more people that find like lists fascinating or like that pithy blog, or it's written in short style. So it's 250 to 1,000 words maximum each section. And each one ends with some kind of action that you need to take in the first book. So it's short sections for you to digest, and then the
Yeah.
action is either recapitulated, reiterated, or it is spelled out for you in each section. So, and you can dive in. Everything kind of has a guide as to what you're going to accomplish by reading
Yeah.
particular chapters or particular sections. So this next book is architected the same way. So 100 down to one. What are the things that are going to most impact your life or maximize your life? And then you can kind of jump in where you want. So I give different categories. So I said motivation and alignment is one.
Yep.
Energy cultivation was two.
Mm.
Time management was three. Habit formation was four. And I made the little joke that, if you look at the crossword puzzle of motivation M, energy cultivation E, time management T, habit formation H. So it's not a synthetic drug, as the name would spell out for you, but we hope you get addicted to these principles nonetheless. So that's my little,
Yeah.
it's a cute way of reframing it. But yeah, so that's those are kind of the four center areas. So if you say, hey, I have trouble with motivation or I have trouble with habit formation, and then I've also kind of put it together where it's like, do you have trouble with getting started, sustaining energy, finishing, or optimizing? So
Mm.
going back through the process and doing it better or quicker. So they're all, you know what? I have a problem with this. I'm going to jump
Yep.
into these skills.
Yeah, yeah. I really do like that because it's essentially sort of meeting people where they're at, right? There's no
Yeah.
specific entry point. It's not like you got to do step one, two. It's because that's, I mean, for some that might work, but for others, it's like, like if you know are comfortable with your
Yep.
act, because we all know our strengths. We have a general sense of things that we're good at, right? And so, let's say it was communication. I know I'm great with communication. Why do I have to
Yeah.
start there and force my way to go through something? Maybe I can pick up something, but that's not where I want to learn. I want to focus my time on other things I'm not as, or, we want to strengthen our strength. We also want to work on our weaknesses as well too. And so I like the
And that's
fact,
what the book's architected for. So, like to give you an
yeah,
example, number 37 is do your best to minimize cognitive dissonance. So that noise that comes from trying to, manage too many things, or I should be working on this while I'm working on this. So if that's something you struggle with, that noise, it's number 37. You can jump right into it. You can read
yep,
it, you can come back to it. So it's not constantly flipping through a book being like, what page was that? Where
yeah,
were my
yeah,
notes to that? Right. So you don't lose that time.
yeah, yeah. So what's is there, if you could identify kind of one lesson that you want every college grad to know before starting their careers, what
Yeah.
would that be?
One lesson for college grads before starting their careers. One overarching theme, it's a great question. So the one overarching theme that I always come back to is college itself is not a race. It is a lever, it is a tool, it is a mechanism to get you into and propel you into the world.
Yep,
You don't run the college race and try to get your 4.0 GPA and then that's it. Now you got to be along the way learning skills, networking, taking internships, because college is a tool, it's not an end in and of itself. So
yep.
that'd probably be my number one lesson for folks. And a lot of people don't realize that until second semester senior year when it's already too late.
It's funny as you mentioned internships. I think about my own journey, and I will tell you that there were two internships I had done. It was volunteered. It was on my own. I kind of approached and said, "Hey, I want to do this," and I was taken. And both those were instrumental in my career progression. Not from
Yeah.
the standpoint of it got me this job, or I got, and it enabled me to establish some key relationships that furthered me down the road. I didn't see it coming, but much
Mm.
later down the road, like, oh wow, and yeah, I remember you were over here and you did that, like, and so yeah, I think the role of internships are simply wonderful. Is
Mhm.
that I'm assuming that's something you wholeheartedly endorse to get enrolled or involved as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and also learning the skill of cold networking. So I teach a framework of how to reach out to people. What do you ask for? What do you make sure you avoid asking?
Yeah,
Reciprocity. So what can you offer in return for them? So we teach all that, and what to say in the first meeting, all of that. But I think that internships, or even if it's just projects you're helping with, or externship, whatever kind of label you want to put on it, but that professional real world experience where you are not only credentialing and showing your abilities to a professional, but you're building that network of somebody who's going to want to come back and say, "Oh, you know what, this is a person I want to go to bat for."
gotcha.
So, people talk about know, like, trust, and,
Yep.
and respecting that process. A lot of people want to be like, I could have reached out to you and be like, "Hey, Audley, can you give me a job?" You're like, "All right, who is this guy?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about him. I don't even know if I know him yet. Never mind like him.
Yeah,
Never mind
that's right.
trust him.
Trust him.
Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to skip to the end, especially in sales or my day job. But you need to understand that there's a process.
There's a
So how do
process.
you do first, go first, give first to kind of show that you're thinking differently and being helpful and valuable to them. Get to know you, get to credential, get to like you. So I think going first, giving first, doing first, you accomplish know and like both very
Yep.
quickly. So you can get to trust the quickest way. But
Hmm.
jumping straight for trust, other than in movies where people are like, just trust me. And then they're like,
Okay.
okay, let's
Okay.
go.
Sure.
Like we have to. Like, in the horror movies, or, I love Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, some of my favorite movies of all time. But the amount of times where he's just like, trust me,
A
like,
random
let's go. And
stranger.
yeah, yeah, right. It's just like, okay, I wouldn't. I'm sorry, man. I would, because, you saved the world in all seven of these movies about 70 different times. But without that, initial understanding of your credibility, I would not.
Right.
So I think Hollywood romanticizes it too much, of jumping straight to trust, and people try to do that and it doesn't work. So no, like, trust, respect the process.
The word authentic really screams to me as you're talking about that, because I think that's a really important aspect, of this. And I can think of in every instance that I've reached out to did a cold call or reached out to someone blindly who I didn't know. Every successful attempt was as I know it was the authenticity I displayed, because it came back to me and said, hey, you know what, man, when you said this, it really resonated with me. It really mattered to me, and it really made a difference.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, teaching our young people the importance of being as transparent as possible and authentic as possible, I think there's some real value in that.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And I think that, again, people try to skip the process and they lose that authenticity. But one of the things
Mhm.
some people come back to me sometimes is they're like, well, I don't have anything to offer, Alex. I'm an 18-year-old. Like, what can I do for them? So I've actually created a list of 20 authentic ways that you can help people and
Beautiful.
offer something, in
Yeah.
return. Especially if you're reaching out to alumni, right? Fill them in on what's going on campus. If they
Yeah.
have children, maybe they want to get a tour, offer a tour. There's a million different things you could be doing. So educating people, our young people, on that today. So I think it takes a lot of intentionality, but you can always be authentic.
And I do like the idea of hitting home the fact that you do have something to offer. We all do,
Yeah.
whether it screams out at us or not. Like, it's there, and we just got to be like, identify that something great, that you've got that tool that will help people to get there, understand that.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, Alex, if you were to sort of give advice to your younger self, given sort of the journey you've been on now and all that you've experienced and learned and the books that you've read, what career advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah, I think for my profession in sales, spent a lot of time. I don't want to say treating people as their role or their decision-making capability, but I think, unfortunately, that comes as a part of the game in sales. So how to battle back against that is building the relationships. So it hit me on my second role when I was still in the same, like, territory, selling into similar roles, and I kind of looked at my Rolodex and I'm like, wow. I don't have too many people I can just know I'm going to send them a message or a text message, and they're going to instantly respond, and they're going to want to meet with me.
Yeah,
Right?
hey, Alex is here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. Because, I did well, and I, fine, and everything like that. Everything went
Yeah.
well and progressed in my career. But at the end of the day, it was maximizing that deal or that opportunity, and I did great by the client, but I didn't really do much to differentiate myself or help them in other ways, right? So I didn't get them a resume line item. I didn't get them a promotion. Whatever it was, I didn't help advance them. We did a great job together on that project, on that deal, on that solution that they wanted, but that's kind of where it started and ended. So I said, all right, I'm going to do things differently, and really make sure that I'm focused on helping and adding value first. So now, and just had another conversation with somebody that haven't that was a client of mine a long time ago, and reached out and wanted to connect and called me up. So being on that texting basis is kind of now how I measure my successful career. And
Right.
if I'm on a texting basis, or a quick LinkedIn message or even an email, and they respond back and there's 100% hit rate, those are the people where I'm like, okay, good. I added enough value. I did good by them, and these are the relationships that I truly I value all relationships, but these are the ones that I'm truly proud of.
Got you. Got you.
Mhm.
I'm actually really proud of the job of the conversation we've had today. I really
Yes.
appreciate the insights. I thought you've given us some good food for thought. Something we like to do here. Hope you're game for. We like to do a quick rapid fire thing. We call it the fearless fast round. We throw stuff out you. Last first thing comes to mind. Pretty straightforward. No.
Yeah, let's do it.
So something light and easy. Coffee or tea?
T.
All right. Favorite productivity hack?
Oof. Favorite productivity hack would probably be not all hours are created equal, maximize your time. And it gets into, we don't have the same amount of energy every day. So make sure you maximize when you do feel your best. You're not wasting that time on other things you could be doing when you don't feel as great.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the piece about the energy, because it's not always, we think it's the same all the time. Really quickly, so I'm a basketball guy, and I remember hearing a story once of this player. He was complaining to his coach about not getting more playing time.
Yep.
And the coach had put him in a game, and he had this spur where he put in like 15 points in 5 minutes kind of. He just went wild, and he used that to his coach to argue, go, here's why I need more time, because if I played more and you maximize out, those 15 points should be 45. And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
Right. Yep, nope, it doesn't. So, I mean, make sure when you feel your best, you're doing your most productive and your most purposeful work.
One of the many books have changed your perspective. Which one's that?
Limitless. Really what I attribute by Jim Quick, what I attribute to the foundation, to enhancing my reading abilities and love for reading. Yeah, it's right here. This one, I always know where it is because I take it off the shelf constantly.
I love it. Love it. Shout out to Jim Quick. Yeah. A mentor that's made a lasting impact.
Ooh, I would say at this point, pseudo mentor for me, Vanessa Van Edwards, phenomenal New York Times bestselling author on emotional intelligence. I've had the pleasure of working with her and learning from her. So go grab her book, Cues, and Captivate.
Most valuable skill you've ever learned?
That's a tough one. Good question. You're trying to make these lightning rounds and you're asking too many good questions that I need to think about now. Most valuable skill I've ever learned. I'd have to go with compounding based on what we talked about in this podcast, right? So getting started early and watching that work for you.
Okay. Biggest misconception about success?
Biggest misconception about success. It's not about you, it's about others.
Okay. I like that. I like
Not
that.
about getting where you need to get to. It's about helping others first in order to attain that level of success.
Okay. Okay. If you could master one skill overnight, what would it be?
Social media. I failed about 6 different times on social media. So, yep. Whatever the algorithm is, it doesn't like my content. So, I got to figure that out.
And one last one, Alex. Thanks for doing this. Audacity means, finish a sentence. What is that? What does audacity mean?
Audacity means having the courage to take action when you are fearful.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Alex, this is awesome. For listeners who want to connect with you directly, learn more about your work, where could we send them?
Yeah. There's a lot of different places. The website I mentioned, alexdripchak.com, but I think commenceyourcareer.com. That's really my baby. That's what we're trying to scale. We're trying to make sure we fix these gaps for the next generation. So take a look over there, commenceyourcareer.com.
And because we're going to try and help you, improve your social media, we're going to send them your social media channels too, right?
Thank you.
To help give you a hand.
Yeah, Instagram is Are You Workforce Ready, all spelled out.
There you go.
And then TikTok is Adulting Made Easy, but the E is shared, so it looks like Mad Easy. Adulting is not Mad Easy. And then LinkedIn is just pretty much Commence, and then obviously Alex Dripchak. So if you want to see things about the upcoming book, that'll be there.
Cool. Alex, this has been awesome. I really appreciate the time, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity to do this. Congrats on all the work. Again, the manner. So first of all, I love the manner in which you're doing it, but again, to focus on young people in the way that you are, very cerebral and very strategic, and I think it's beautiful because you're setting up that generation for success in the long term. And so, congratulations on that, and thanks again for being a guest on the Audacious Living Podcast.
No, I appreciate you. And one of the things I always like to say is practice what you preach, right? So you've had me on here getting to speak with your team, and I'm happy to, people reach out with questions, happy to field those and help that way. But I'll push it back to you. What can I be doing to reciprocate for having me on here on the podcast?
Oh, wow. Well, listen, I'm, it's funny because for me, it's really about encouraging, audaciousness. A book I'm working on now, I'm just finalizing the manuscript. It's how to live your best audacious life, how unleashing your inner greatness can change the world. And so, what I continually strive and push for is encouraging people to unleash your inner greatness. First of all, identify that it's there, and then say, and be able to have them recognize that every single thing that I do can make an impact. It matters, right? I can contribute in some way, shape, or form. And so, that continues to be my life mission. It's nothing to do with the podcast. It's nothing to do with my book. It's much bigger than that. And these, to me, those are tools and mechanisms and vehicles for a greater purpose. And so, I would say, please continue to push that message of audacious living. And, the thing about it is audacity is everywhere as I see it. It's everywhere in every aspect of their lives. So if you're looking to pivot your career, you're demonstrating audacity, because the thing that's really key in this is if I'm unleashing my audacity, I give permission to others to do the same. Like if we're all out there just being our authentic, true selves and taking risks and being bold, and forget it, whether we're having successes or we're achieving whatever we're after, forget that for a moment. Yes, that's important, but we're just taking those risks and learning from them as we go. Then I really do think this world can be a better place. And so that to me, that's my ask of you, Alex. It really is. It truly is.
So it's how to live your best audacious life, unleash your inner greatness. When is that coming out?
Well, we just finalized the manuscript, so we're talking about how to. So I don't have a date yet, but look, you and I are connected for life now, so you'll know when it comes out because I'm gonna let you know. So there we go.
Well, I also want to make sure that your listeners are aware that it's coming. I'm sure they are, but obviously, I always want to make sure that this isn't just a one-way lens. This is
for sure.
Bi-directional. We're helping each other. We're helping the world become a better place.
To be honest, in all honesty, you are the first person I've publicly said that to on my podcast. I have not been talking about it per se. I've just been working on it. So there you go. You were the first that I've said, this is what's happening. We're doing it. And when it hits the universe, we're going to let the world know.
I love it. Awesome. I really appreciate it, Audley. Looking forward to the continuous connection here.
Appreciate you, Alex.
Thank you.
Back, we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Alex for being here. If you're navigating your career journey right now, the biggest takeaway is this: your success isn't just about working harder. It's about investing your time, relationships, and the skills and ways that compound over time. And what I loved about this conversation is Alex is focused on intentional action, not just consuming information, but actually applying it to build real world opportunities, and those connections that last a lifetime. If today's conversation resonated with you, I strongly encourage you to connect with Alex directly, explore his work around future-proofing careers and developing essential skills for long-term success as well. Check out his book as well. As a closing thought, your career is not a straight line. It's a pathway filled with pivots, experiments, and bold decisions. The more curious and intentional you are, the more audaciously you'll move forward. Remember, audacity isn't just about having all the answers. It's about having the courage to take the action even when you don't. If this episode inspired you, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and share. Your audacious growth doesn't just impact you. It creates a ripple effect that empowers everyone around you to live boldly too. So without that note, I say thank you. Much thanks I give much appreciation and thanks for the time. And remember, keep living life audaciously.
Driven by purpose, fueled by passion. My words got power, my thoughts have action. Motivation, stay gracious. That's greatness. Be